that whatever. This is about what this is. Um, let's go ahead and pull
Oh,
this up.
Jesus.
A government anti-terrorism unit in the UK has reportedly flagged key English literature as potential triggers for right-wing extremism, leading one author whose work is on the list to bash the agency's strategy. Well, that's good. Um, C.S. Lewis, J.R. Tolkien, George Orwell, Joseph Conrad, and Aldous Huxley were included on the list of potentially problematic texts compiled by Prevent Research Information and Communications Unit, according to Spectator. So the prick unit has decided that reading about hobbits is racist. Other authors whose work is allegedly shared by people sympathetic with far right and Brexit also include Hobbes, Locke, Edmund Burke, Thomas Carlyle, Adam Smith, and William Shakespeare. My God, will the rampant bigotry never fucking end? Are you kidding me, dude? Okay, look, I'll admit that Shakespeare is racist, but it's at least the funny kind of racist, not the, let's go ahead and kill each other in a Target sort of racist. Kurt's here. We should go ahead and bring him in. Um, ladies and gentlemen, host of Can't Get Right with Kurt Metzger, as well as writer on a number of other incredible podcasts, including the Jimmy Dore Show and the Kyle
Hey,
Dunnigan Show. Ladies and gentlemen, Kurt Metzger, what's up, buddy? How's it going?
what are you guys talking about? Hobbits?
We're talking. Well, you're a white supremacist if you read about them.
What? What's that from?
Well, it's problematic It's from the UK's prick unit.
What's
That's a
that?
thing. It's a real thing. I'll go ahead and bring it back up. Um, the UK introduced prevent duty as a component of its broader counterterrorism approach, which is known as contest. Its
Okay.
primary objective is to employ preventative measures to decrease the risk of terrorist threats, and they have decided that reading about Narnia leads to dangerously subversive Christian nationalism, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
What? Everything in England is geared towards like not like it's very strange. It's almost like they colonized England and ran the indigenous off their land. Like how they're like it's a very strange thing where they're like being actually English is like a bad thing. But isn't that like part of just the larger like destroy the national identity of it because Brexit, etc.
Well, and they did specifically cite Brexiters
Brexit.
as
Yeah.
Yeah,
problematic readers of, dangerous authors like Thomas Hobbes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Which
Every
should be
country,
the
yeah.
dead ringer to understand their fucking motives and their objective of what they're doing. The fact that they would even bring Brexit, like, people who are, pro Brexit are the fucking terrorists. Those are the
Yeah,
information
right.
carriers. It should be like, okay,
Well,
fuck off.
what are they gonna do? Knife terrorism?
Yeah, yeah, they are. They're going
I
to do
mean, I
knife
think that's
terrorism.
mostly knife related terrorism there, isn't it?
For the most part, yeah. Although they occasionally get bombings, I think have been a little bit more fashionable lately.
So what like uh, is it in especially in like UK, like I always seems to me like especially when you see like immigration kind of fights of like mass like people on boats and all that, it's like the kind of people on top feel maybe they feel guilty that they blew up all these countries, so like we got to let them come in because we
Yeah.
blew their
Like,
shit
yeah,
up.
yeah. I mean,
And
that's
people are like I wasn't part of the deal when we went over there.
Well, and in Ireland right now, they're like, there's been for weeks now a hashtag that's Ireland is full, and
Okay.
the more I guess Republican in the Irish Republic sense,
Yeah, right.
Republican sentiment, and the more Republican leaning people in Ireland are basically going, yeah, no, we didn't want any part in any of this in the first place. We've got a fuck ton of problems. Our economy's been in free fall for a decade. Go somewhere else.
What happened to remember, like, bro, when I was living in New York, Ireland was having some kind of major boom.
They had
I
a
guess it was
tech
real
bubble.
estate.
They had a tech bubble like crazy there for a little bit, and all these major tech companies were going over there. But then their fallout after Greece's economy went to shit, there was a correlative effect. I'm probably getting some of this wrong, but their economy went into the absolute shitter, and they were starting to adopt the same sort of austerity measures that Greece did.
Oh,
And then COVID hit, and they just went full fucking lockdown, at least in all of the major cities.
dude, have you seen because in France where they're burning everything down. That guy really screwed up. But I like each country gets its own prescribed how we're gonna break this down for the global 2030 program. Like, because France is something about hobbits and shit. They don't give a shit. It's all I wonder what their France terrorism thing is. Of like, do they talk about their pension?
Well, so we yesterday had a great conversation with a French journalist named Freddie Ponton, and he doesn't live in Paris, lives outside of Paris, but had a bunch of people on the ground there, and has a very, very good grasp of the overall situation. Connected what was going on in Paris directly to the sustainable development goals and what's trying to get pushed through the WEF and how the central banks have affected this. I mean, it was a fantastic conversation. The yellow vests and the demonization of them and the infiltration of that movement to make it violent and to make it the face of like right-wing extremism in
Right.
France is how they did that. So then anyone connected to the yellow vest,
Yeah, it's like one
became
template for
factor.
everyone.
Yeah,
You're like, oh,
yeah.
this is right wing extremism, and then you just like fill in the blank. They get like a template, right? Like you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's right-wing extremist Mad Libs, and they just fill in whatever country, whatever type of grievance that they're protesting for, and why that's white supremacy.
Well, I just yesterday I was trying to look up where Macron came. He always makes me laugh when I see him, like the way his hair is. He looks like the Merovingian from The Matrix, you know.
He does kind of,
And
yeah.
and so I always like. So I guess he was just a banker, is where he came from. But I didn't know. So his wife, who I mean, I don't give a shit. She's way older than him, but it's hilarious. They hooked up when he was her student. He was 15.
Mhm.
Do you know that story? I didn't know that. But it's not illegal. By the way, it's totally legal there.
Yeah, in France, it's like that's a fantastic summer.
It is a very French summer.
Yeah. What'd you do? I hooked up with my 35-year-old teacher.
No, she was like even older than that, wasn't she? And then yeah, and then so I'm watching all these, like, while I'm looking that up, I see like a thing when Macron got elected. I wish I had the link to it, but they're talking about, maybe I can find it. It was right when he got in. They're talking about how this guy came out of nowhere, and he had a whole new political party, the Move Forward Party, which sounds very Andrew Yang-ish, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and so this is 5 years ago, and it's an NPR thing, and it looked like a commercial for him. Like, it was weird. It wasn't like a thing for French people. It was for you at home to go like, oh, and this must have been after Brexit. So then a year later, there's The Economist has a video about in France, everyone's complaint, and this must have been during the yellow vests. Okay, so they're like, what? It's basically like, oh, the French are being all grumbly. They're like, they're just known for complaining. It was crazy what I was watching. And
I remember pour some fucking water. I remember them trying to sell Macron to the US as like, oh, he's the French Obama about it. And that's kind of the pitch
right?
that they were giving was he was gonna he was gonna hope and change his way into a bold new technologically sound green energy centric France and all that kind of crap. And they
Yeah, it clearly was like a package, it was such an obvious
native advertising is what.
Yeah, it looked like wait, let me see if I can find I want to find this thing because I love when they do those animated things while they're explaining stuff, and then it's like there's no need for them to have animations there. Like they'll be saying like the word "I," and then you see like a little drawing of an eye looking at something. It's like that kind of stupid.
Yeah,
But it was really like amazing. Okay, let's see. I think this is it.
And just to while you're pulling up, the third party thing, I want people to understand France. Macron's third party wasn't like this independent party. It was just an offshoot of the shit libs that were there. It was a majority of those shit libs that were in the France, parliament that joined his party. So it wasn't like a, populist movement outside of the establishment. It was just
That's how they made it look. That's how they were trying to make it look.
It wasn't.
Is this it?
Might be.
What's significant about Macron?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
play this. Watch this. It's really weird.
Let's take a look. There, volume.
Emmanuel Macron was elected president of France in May 2017 for a 5-year term. At 39, he is the youngest French leader since Napoleon. Macron's victory as a total political outsider was a stunning upset, and it blew apart the traditional two-party system that's governed France for the last 60 years. That would be like if some completely unknown politician beat both the Democratic and Republican presidential candidates and destroyed the two parties along the way. Macron, who before May had never been elected to public office, felt and understood a deep desire.
Okay.
Look at do you see how stupid that is?
Okay.
So why are they putting both the Democrat, that's like Hillary and Trump, as if Trump wasn't the outsider that destroyed their thing? This is very strange. Wait, I can't hear you, Craig. He's muted.
It's smart in a way if it's you're using it as a control mechanism to make this guy look like a populist third party candidate, because a lot of people are yearning for that in the United States and in the West. But it was just an offshoot of the shit libs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It wasn't some breakthrough thing. I mean, I would even say that Gabriel Boric in Chile is way more like of a third party candidate, still connected to a lot of global entities, which, don't get me wrong, I don't want to get into that whole conversation, but this is not like this unique third party. This is like the guy kind of won a Democratic primary and split off and started his own party,
Right.
So, he was a young global leader.
Yeah.
And a young global shaper.
Isn't he I was looking up something, and it's funny, you can find like all this info about him from people trying to debunk fake info about him, but he's like a big Rothschild. He's a banker from there.
Yeah.
So he's like everybody's like a bunch of rich families astroturf someone. And but if you watch, this is the part after this. Watch, press play. Watch what comes next about the new people, like how
among French voters for something completely new. A year before the election, Macron created his own political movement called En Marche, or On the Move. He described it as progressive and centrist. Macron rejected the traditional left-right divide that he said had kept France blocked for decades. After winning the presidency in May, Macron's brand new party went on to win a majority in the 577-seat French parliament, and in keeping with his promise to return government to the people, half of Macron's new parliamentarians are women, and half are regular people with no political experience at all.
What?
The effect of Macron's victory.
What did she just say? So in keeping with this problem, half of them are women and half are regular people. What in the... What?
Women aren't, number one, Kurt, women aren't regular people. We all know this. Even NPR admits it.
How is that keeping your promise to the people? This is what I'm saying, where it looked like such a corporate, like ad where they're like, and we've got even more diversity in this thing that was the last thing you cared about. Like,
yeah. Well, Marie Le Pen was the conservative, right? The one they try to kind of market as like the Donald Trump. Like she's more of a
Yeah.
populist conservative, and she's going to protect, France's traditional family values and that kind of thing. Jean-Luc Mélenchon, he was like the populist guy, which was compared to Bernie Sanders of sorts. The 2016 Bernie Sanders that was outside, was more of a populist left leaning, but couldn't break through over there. I mean, they both. I believe Mélenchon's house was raided by their Paris Secret Service or whatever the fuck it is. Their FBI went to his house and tried to confiscate things, and Mélenchon filmed the whole thing. But he was more of the populist leftist candidate that they're trying to portray here in this video right now.
Oh, I see. Okay, and all right. So there's a thing where The Economist is talking about Macron that I watched right after. And that's where it's because what's funny is now that everything's on fire, it's wild how they were trying to like characterize. So he comes in as it looks like the rollout of a shitty like MCU movie where they're like all the hype, and then it slowly sucks, and then it's like, and now racists hate it, and then like, hold on, Economist Macron. I wanted to send it because they. Oh, why are the French fed up? It's why are the French fed up? Economist, Steve.
Okay.
And this is from 11 months ago. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be tell you why they're fed up, but it's actually like
what it means for Macron.
Yeah, what were you saying, Greg?
I was going to say, are you on the road right now?
No, I'm back home. I was in Florida.
I just got back to Florida.
Oh, really? I was in Jacksonville.
Oh, that's way up there. But next time you go to Jacksonville, let me know. I got a friend up there. I'm gonna go see him, so I'll come check you out as well.
Oh yeah, I wasn't doing a show. My girl's friend was getting married.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I would have come up there and party with you either way. I just got back from Cuba, so
how was that?
Amazing experience, and very interesting, very intriguing, very unique compared to the 6 Latin American countries I went to under certain conditions. So I mean, yeah, man, it's I'm hoping it's the first trip of many. It's definitely the most kind of hard to like. It's hard to gain trust within that government, obviously, so going there for press credentials or press reasons, it's a process, but we did our due diligence. We went into the Center for, international press. We, I tried to observe the elections. I knew I was going to probably get shut out, and I did. But, it's understandable for, the last, Castro, I think it was, there was an attempt of 60 assassinations on the dude over so many years, which is claimed when I'm sure they wanted to kill that guy for quite some time. So they're hesitant, but it's kind of observing and seeing the reality and the problems of this time of today, of the year 2023, and trying to convey that message to a lot of people here in America that, hey, man, you need to get out of your revolutionary, 60-year bubble. And I like the fact and appreciate you got a Che shirt on and shit like that. But that revolution is not as relevant to the everyday Cuban people who are just trying to fucking eat, And,
yeah, right.
There's ways of telling people on both sides of the team sports spectrum back at home to shut the fuck up. There's a lot of conservatives that, scream and then, open about regime change there commonly and say like, we got to get rid of this communist situation. It's like, dude, the one thing that Cuba doesn't have is homeless people on the street like you got. Maybe you should clean your own fucking house first, you pro-capitalist asshole,
right.
And stop this whole ism battle, and let's figure solutions and
try
identify the real problems so these Cuban people can eat.
You tried to what about it? What aboutism it is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's you know what it is that's like every shitty especially about Iraq where they were Chalabi, that guy, and every one of these countries that it's like some rich exile comes to America, goes to like a cocktail party, and they want America to punish every living member of the country they just came from forever. And just take your pick. Every country, they're like, yeah, it was good. They went and got him. And they couldn't give the people from there couldn't give less of a shit if everyone. It's like the hatred rich people have for Americans when they go somewhere.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you find The Economist?
I think so. I think so.
Why are the
let's
French
see.
fed up? Yeah.
All right.
In 2017, populism was in full flow around the world, but the election of French President Emmanuel Macron seemed to signal its resounding defeat, at least in France. But 5 years on, as the country heads to the polls once again, the French are fed up. Normally, this despondency spells defeat for sitting presidents, but Macron is leading in all the polls. So why are the French so miserable? It's market day in Auxerre, a town about 200 kilometers southeast of Paris. Auxerre is a typical provincial city in France, but is also a bellwether. It's backed the winner in every French presidential race for 40 years. And in 2022, there's only one victor in sight.
Monsieur Macron.
Le président Macron.
In 2017, Emmanuel Macron swept to power with a party that was little more than a year old. At 39, he was the youngest president in French history. He promised to unite the country and proposed sweeping reforms. His term in office has been turbulent, rocked by national and international.
Wait,
he
where's
looks
the?
he looks like if you took Roger Moore, which is James Bond, Roger
Yeah.
Moore, and mashed him up with like Mitt Romney.
And Frenchified him?
Yeah, made him French. Yeah, so this is the demonization of the yellow vest.
Wait, yeah, but this is only from 11 months ago. It's coming up. The part like they like, what is here? Play it because you'll see how the economy. Who runs The Economist? What is that? That's like a neoliberal fucking thing, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
Shit lib.
yeah, it's a hardcore. But because this is how they characterize these people being mad at him.
All right.
International events. But on Macron's watch, France has also become more entrepreneurial and business-friendly. Incomes have risen and unemployment has dropped. Faced with the pandemic, his stimulus package helped deliver the strongest economic growth since the late 1960s, ensuring a quick recovery to pre-pandemic levels. No surprise then that Macron's been odds-on to return to power since The Economist began to forecast this year's election. You can see our latest prediction by clicking on the link.
Wait, watch.
The market shoppers don't exactly seem overjoyed at the prospect.
Je pense que c'est difficile de se dire qu'il va y avoir du changement.
L'état de la France, on va dire, ça pourrait être mieux.
Je pense que c'est croule de l'intérieur comme un souffle.
Gallup grumpiness may not seem a surprise. Some argue pessimism is part of the French psyche. There's even a French word for it.
Gallic grumpiness. The guy's great. Okay. And then, but why are these French all mad? Oh, there's a French word for their constant moaning.
I mean, that maybe that has a different context in France. Maybe it does.
It obviously, yeah.
I would just say, just rewind it a little bit and leave the word up there real quick for the audience to see while we're talking about this. But please continue, gentlemen, with the definition of the word.
I mean, like a constant, oh, you French, you don't want to retire. When is America's retirement? Like 72?
Right, something like that. What are they pushing for? I don't know.
I know pushing for no such thing as that is what I think they're pushing for.
Right, you signed the worry-free contract. It's a lifetime of worry-free living. You can go live in your bunk and walk down to the cafeteria while your kids get educated in the factory. Yeah, it'll be fine. It will be.
Well, so that's why. So The Economist. So in general, because I remember seeing I don't know why I was watching a clip of Colbert. It might have been for work, but he was talking about how he went to a dinner and met Macron, and both he and his wife swooned. Stephen Colbert, because he met that dreamboat Macron.
I mean, how much of a starfucker do you have to be one of the highest paid guys on television? Like, in what kind of empty, bubble-headed world are you
Because
in?
that NPR thing, that's for Stephen Colbert. You're like, who is this for? That's for Stephen Colbert. Like, oh, good. There is an antidote to Trumpism around the world, and it's Macron. And though it's always a thing of like, hey, it's neither left or right. It's like it starts with neither left nor right, and then it goes into like, I just want business to do okay. Like, and they go, it really is like the amazing, like, look, we don't care about your stupid politics. We just want to trade freely and not have to worry about things like employee. You know, who was the woman from Canada that was explaining why we all got to get 10 times more productive to match the third world where the jobs are going?
Oh, right.
Christia something.
Christia Friedland.
Yeah.
Christia Friedland.
She's given this speech of how, like, well, these people grumble, but you're gonna have to be way more productive to keep up. It's just like this, like, it's always on you. Like, the market needs to be where you, the employees, we have zero power, and then anything where it's because they were complaining about that here, weren't they? That people would be able to have, and I don't think the job market's even that great here, like they were asking, but they were grumbling. People don't want to take these jobs and aren't paying them.
Right.
Like, it's just
we don't understand why no one's going back to work. I mean, yeah, we aren't willing to pay them anything considerably approaching the survival wages, but you'd think they'd be happy to be back at it. You'd think they would be. It'd be a little bit more appreciative.
Uniquely American, yeah.
My last girlfriend was a rallure, but she woke up my mom twice, so that's why I had to get rid of her.
Your last girlfriend was what?
A rallure.
What's that? What, a rallure? What are you saying? Oh, a constant moaner.
Yeah.
I don't understand what that
I'll
is.
let you tell the fucking jokes from now on. I'll just stay the hell out of it, by the way.
No, I forgot the French word immediately. I was just like, when I was watching that, the evolution of like it's like hype and then damage control from every angle. It's like a great process. And then I'm reading
cynical French.
Then I read, I was in a whole Macron hole. And then I read like other fucking neoliberal kind of rags, and they're like, yeah, well, he's so smart, but that wasn't politically smart. I mean, he was justified in doing it. They do have to do that, and it was legal. They didn't mention he did like an emergency powers act, like you would do for a terror attack to fuck your pension up.
Yeah. And so here's what happened, because he just got reelected, and when he was,
and I want to talk about that.
When that campaign was going, he was talking about how pension reform was something that needed to happen. There was grumbling about it early on, and so this is something that he was already, I guess, threatening to do. Mm-hmm. And then because there was zero freaking support or will for it, not just publicly, but within his own government, he went around everyone.
Yeah, because he doesn't answer to them.
Correct. And then the people that did get upset, and enough to hold a no confidence vote, they managed to bribe, cajole, and twist enough arms to get through it not once but twice.
Wow.
And that's when the general strike started. And so everything that we've seen for the last several days has more or less been in retaliation to that second no confidence vote sailing through, because it had become publicly obvious that the people in the French parliament that needed to vote get the fuck out were getting openly taken care of.
Wow. And so, okay, is this all how much of it is because of Ukraine shit? Is because the fuel's way up and all that? Like, is it?
So yeah, okay. Maybe I could put you and Jimmy in touch with the guy that we had on yesterday, because he's freaking incredible. and you could have a chat with them too. But it's all directly connected. The stuff that the yellow vests were freaking out about in 2019 was kind of a canary in the coal mine for what this sustainable development bullshit was doing. What all of the like DEI kind of nonsense that had already been worked into the European business framework was doing to the economy. We're in a situation like Cuba, like Pasta was talking about, where you've got an entire country full of PhDs but no laborers. What Europe
is that what it is? Like Cuba's all PhDs and no laborers?
There's a lot of that, and that's the
it's an
problem.
exaggeration to clarify, but yeah.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought wow, that's very interesting.
Quite some time. There's a joke out there that I heard, and it was kind of funny. It's like this girl met this gentleman that she thought worked at this beautiful restaurant on the Malecon, which is where the water is. But it turns out she was sad because the dude, he's only a doctor. And that's true. You got a cab driver who's a doctor, and you have like the person who rented out my Airbnb, she was an accountant. Her husband was an engineer. You know what I'm saying? But
so they all have like these like great jobs to have in a neoliberal system, but it's not. So then it's like not that good.
There's no infrastructure for it. There's no job placement for it because there's nothing new being built. There's no money that's being poured into infrastructure. They have to export all of their doctors. You always hear about, Cuba's light years better than the American healthcare. Look at all the doctors they do. It's because they're producing more doctors than they are.
Wow. Than they are nurses.
And they don't want to do that work.
Professions.
Yeah. They don't want to do the work that's needed over there right now. If they had, that's part
They've
of the
got bougie liberal syndrome. You give a guy a PhD, you don't want to pick up a fucking hammer.
And imagine,
dude, I'm a clown for a living, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, imagine having a PhD, right? Imagine having all the credibilities to having a doctor, and now you can't do that work. You have no money, and then you look at your phone, and 90 miles away, the doctors are rich, driving around in nice areas, have a good, you know what I'm saying? That's what you're going to produce in a society like that. And that's part of the problem. That's why I said it's not always about the fucking ism. It's what your economy is set for, what your workers produce, what they're made for, what they're programmed for. I did not see enough carpenters. I did not see enough bricklayers. Like I told Steve, grab your toolbox and get over there because they need to do. I know, I get it. He's saying no, but you know what I'm saying? It's that's what they need. And if they would produce that in the society, it's needed, and they're also dependent on tourism so much. And when you have crazy COVID lockdowns, you're just going to fucking kill the economy.
Did they have that?
They had crazy COVID lockdowns. Like, for 6 months, they shut shit down,
Right.
They were one of the last to release the now you can go there to Cuba without a COVID test and without a vaccine kind of shit. America still has that shit. You can't be a foreigner, come here without a vaccine. And it's got to be one of the approved vaccines, and they're uber vaccinated over there. Not mRNA, though. It's the Cuban vaccine, so it's totally different. But I mean,
how is theirs? Is theirs any good, or is it?
If I was forced to take a vaccine, I would take the Cuban vaccine.
Right? Is it? It's not Sputnik.
It's not Sputnik. No,
it's
their
Sputnik.
own. I think they got 5 of their own. I'm sure.
Oh no shit.
See, but people don't even realize that Cuba has, on paper, made reforms to start opening up a private sector. In other words, start letting private businesses come in. But if you don't have the money in the investments for that, and you don't have the people coming, it doesn't make any sense. It's like a little bit too late. You're trying to emulate the Chinese model of this kind of like free market socialism, but you got to have the means and the necessities to do that. So it's going to take something creative for Cuba to get on their feet. But at the same time, like I said, there's no homelessness in Cuba. You don't see homeless people there at all.
Yeah, right. And which in a warm place is very unusual. Like if you go someplace warm, you'll be like, wow, I would think it would be a thick blanket of homeless like here in LA.
Yeah.
So wow, that's interesting. It's really amazing that the China style capital, because I'll still talk to people who talk about China like it's communist, and I'm like, I didn't see anything remotely resembling communism, other than the flag and the people. Like the government there is like, you can't say anything about them, but all these things seem to be like really running together to being the same system, which is some like state fused corporate
Yes.
nightmare. I mean, like I think you're right about the isms thing because they don't matter. Like I don't know how people sign on for a package deal of ideology where like you can't like buffet style it and leave out
You
because
can.
it all becomes the same thing.
You can. It's called a mixed economy. It's something I've been screaming out for quite some time. But there's issues and problems in each system that we have to pay attention to. We could sit here and we can fuck around and yell at the Chinese all day, but China, there's more small businesses by far per capita of people in China than there are in the United States.
Yeah, I
There's
saw
a
it.
billion people in China.
Yeah, but per
Come on.
capita.
Okay.
No, per capita.
There's more
What does
individual people
what
per
does
people.
small business mean? What does that
They
mean?
have more small businesses.
What
in
does that
China.
mean though? We're
Literally that a small
we're like the
a Hong
the
Kong
proprietor
kiosk.
the proprietor of the business. Like, I mean, in terms of like what's the take for the state? Because it
Dude,
is
a bunch of people
possible-
don't pay tax. Dude, a bunch of people are like don't pay taxes and shit there.
Yeah.
No one respects the cops. Number one, they don't have any guns, and people give them the finger and drive by them. We ran from the cops. I told you on the second day I was there, we had to run from cops. It was me and Andy. I think he works for Live Nation now, but he got in a fight with the guy who ran a toll booth in a parking lot, and we were supposed to be able to. We were in an Uber or something, whatever Chinese Uber is, and Andy's Australian, so I didn't know they were fighting because that cheerful sounding. No worries. So I thought he was telling the guy a joke or something. Then Andy goes over and starts trying to break his what do you call it? The thing that lowers. I keep forgetting.
Oh, little gate thingy.
Yeah, and then there's a driver just waiting while this is going on. I'm sitting back. I think I had a neck pillow on from the airport because I take all my shit. He goes, "We got to go." He called the cops. I'm like, I got my rolly bag, and me and him ran. I got a neck pillow and a roller bag, and we were running because the cops are coming. And then we ran for 2 blocks, and he was like, "All right, I think we're good." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "If you don't stand there and wait, they're not coming to get you. You got to just run." Like even Grand Theft Auto had a harder to beat the cop system than that.
Well, and at least you weren't looking conspicuous in China, being like
Dude, if
6'11" with a fucking neck pillow.
You should only run from the cops because he got hit by a guy on a moped. Some guy ran a moped into him one time when he was there. Because every so often, basically, they like how we blame Russia on everything. Their whole thing is Japan, and I mean Japan's pretty ugly history of what Japan did to them. But that's their eternal. The way we use World War II forever is like our good thing. So that's what they do, and so everything on TV is a drama from World War II about a mean Japanese general, and like whenever things start going really bad, they start. It's not as much blaming America as it is Japan. You would think it'd be like, it's America. It's mostly Japan, but then things were starting to like change where it was like, fuck America again. So, are you saying
good.
something, Craig? Oh,
No.
and, yeah, and so they like if you get in an altercation with anyone Han Chinese, that's if you're American or anybody who's not Han Chinese, they are never. You're a foreigner, a low Y. So he got hit. A cop comes. He goes, "This guy just ran me over." Then the cop turns to the man and goes, "Do you want this foreigner to pay you?" That's what it is. So, but it's not like the kind of, they don't harass you, the cops. It's just, no offense, you're not Chinese, so we don't give a shit about you. It's like kind of a different kind of, I would say it's like less personal than how American racism would be.
Impersonal racism. Yeah.
It's just like, look, you're just not Chinese, so what do you want?
You don't rank enough to count. I got a billion of my countrymen to deal with. You're not
like
any
you go
of them.
hang out with the expats and like, smoke pot and shit, you probably aren't going to get fucked with. I mean, now though, it depends on what the political climate is. So when I was there, they like Trump, the regular people there, because they're like, oh, he's a businessman. It's all about business. They don't know anything about it. They know he's business, whatever, real estate. A lot, you've probably seen stuff about how their real estate booms and shit happen.
Mhm.
My friend because both my friends had Chinese wives, they were there for a while, and the parents, if you're marrying a white guy, they're like, oh, is he Jewish? Like they're hoping he's Jewish. And the reason is they don't really know that much about Jews or whatever, but the stereotypes people say where they hate Jews are the reason Chinese like Jews. Like it's very similar. It's a very similar like they pinch every penny, like it's and it's like ignorant, but it's like positive, like they like it.
They're perks, yeah.
Yeah, and then what happens is, as like when the international bullshit ratchets up, it was almost like it was amazing. It's like seeing a weird funhouse mirror of here, like all the bullshit of like setting up Putin like he's Thanos in the NC for 10 years. They have like that, and you kind of see how a government has a national enemy to crank up fears about whenever they're fucking something up,
Yep.
They didn't hate Xi.
It's always the same shit. It's always the same problem, reaction, solution. Oh, look, this thing that we just gamed out last year that we've been think tanking for 2 decades just happens to be the perfect tailor-made solution
Well,
for this problem that we created.
That's the thing, is creating a problem that you have to like a whack-a-mole with it.
Problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah, and what they would do is see that with people, if they get polled, they like Xi. They won't say anything bad about Xi, the government, and it's not like they're terrified to talk about Xi. They generally they get patriotic about that. What they get mad at is their local leaders. So they have riots and shit, and it's usually a local, because each province will do their own little whatever, and if the leader is like a little dictator, so that's where they get most of their anger, is at the local level. And also, if they're corrupt or something or get caught, they like if you go to prison for that kind of crime, that's like breaking rocks. That's like when they were saying lock her up about Hillary. If she was a Chinese politician, she would go to do hard time. The smaller crimes don't do the kind of time that like a political crime does. So what happens is, when people are corrupt, and it's the same like market corruption of all, the consequences are a lot more severe. So there's more incentive to cover up your mistakes in a bad way. So that's where you see the videos of like a car falling in a pothole and they're like burying. They're not even getting the people out and just burying it. It's because you got to cover up a problem, because it's an interesting problem, because you're like, oh, why don't they just haul off these people, these, like banking here or whatever, and why don't they haul them off and like China execute them with a bullet in the head? Well, what'll happen is those powerful people then get more ruthless to cover what they're doing, because they're going to have real consequences.
Sorry,
I like the fact that they jail and hang their corrupt bankers too.
Yes, they do. No, the thing that is funny is like when they made the Alibaba guy disappear.
Yeah.
And you're like China just takes their billion. Like, don't make me love you, China. You take like your billionaires just disappear for a month when they run their yap.
Yeah. And they make it sound like American, media makes it sound like any like hardcore activist that he'll make them disappear or hang them, they'll put them in jail. But like, they'll have conversations with these people. But Yahweh Wei, who's a famous, Chinese activist, who's really, they arrested him, and then like 3 days later he was released, and he's just like, yeah, man, I'm not talking about this shit anymore, or whatever. I'm not, what I'm saying? Like, it's like they had a conversation, like, dude, I don't know what your place is, but who the fuck you're working with? Some of them, we don't want you working with them. Don't get all cozy with the Clinton fucking administration, because we ain't taking that shit. So
yeah, well, I didn't know that Tiananmen Square is when George Soros was no longer welcome in China. That blew my fucking mind to hear about that. Because you tell a conservative, like, Tiananmen Square is one of the most cherished chestnuts of like American lore about China. And when I think it was Jackson telling me, I was like getting upset at him and he showed me the WikiLeaks from the diplomats in America, like. So there's an NGO there, similar to the BLM protest bricks that were helpfully left out.
Yeah.
And that was Soros' NGO. So conservatives that love to bring that up, I love to tell them that Soros thing, because it like fucks them up. They really are like don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah. Soros had his own president in fucking China for a little while. You know what I'm saying? Like, who held office there for quite some time. And I think the dude's doing like in-house arrest for the rest
Wait,
of
who's
his
that?
life.
Who's that?
I forgot the dude's name. I'm mad.
Is that the guy that Xi put away?
Well,
They were
he's
telling
on
me
the
about a
in-house
guy.
arrest. So
Yeah.
I mean, Xi came to power because of these guys. You know what I'm saying? They wanted
He
lot
was
of
a
the Chinese,
corruption
they wanted these people to
crusader.
fuck out. So
Yeah.
I did not know that was a Soros thing. That guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
This
Soros
goes
throwing
back
everything
to
at
the US has been trying to put someone in charge of China since the Rockefellers hung out with Mao. But in modern times, the project that Nixon and Kissinger and Brzezinski started to normalize relations with China was all about opening up that like Rhodes Scholar to Harvard to government office pipeline to China. And that's where we got the mass amount. That's where all of those education exchange programs started. It was because we were trying to, culturally westernize and put in Rockefeller Foundation effectively, a worldview into Chinese government, the Chinese businesses, things like that. And that's a 50-year project now. And it had a lot of success when there was just a crap ton of money being poured into China from the West. And we were giving the Chinese a ton of our fucking bonds and a ton of our real estate and all this kind of crazy shit. And so it was easier for them to slip it in and go ahead and get leadership that way, even though Soros had already been banned from the country. And the thing about those Cablegate releases is that that's what made Hillary Clinton be like, well, can't we just drone Julian Assange? Can't we? I mean, it was and as low level classification as those are, it was enough for the international community. I hate that phrase. I really do. But enough for people all over the planet to look at how the U.S. really feels about the rest of them and their leadership and their diplomats. And, oh, yeah, by the way, we're fucking spying on everybody.
Yeah, right.
And so that really blew a fuse in the State Department.
Yeah, well, it was probably awkward to say the least. Yeah, that's really I didn't realize all that stuff Oh, so my girlfriend works at Getty Museum.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I'm trying to find, like I told you, I'm always trying to find like UFO shit, but just I want to know about the specific alien races and their head shapes and shit, like the phrenology of them. Okay. So it's hard. I have to pick through a lot of stuff. So I find a video where some guys talking about, never mind Pizzagate, the Getty Museum has 100,000 kids. I guess that's an old thing about the Getty Museum so that's where they hide the kids on the underground tunnels.
Right. That's right. And then they showed the big ass picture of the complex and all that. Have you checked with your girlfriend about the kid tunnels?
She has access to the tunnels. They just go to the boiler.
Does she go down and feed them and stuff like that? Is there like a cart with meat you just fling into the kid cages or something?
The boiler room, the boiler room where they keep the kids. It actually turns out in a building that size, you actually do have to have the boiler room just be a boiler room because it powers. It turns out there's not that much room to keep the kids in. But what she was telling me is like people don't know. So Getty, like his shitty family has no control over this. His family's the one where you see those idiots gluing their heads to paintings and shit.
Yeah.
To stop oil.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with, he didn't give them money like that. He was like, he didn't even want to spend on getting his grandson that got kidnapped by Ndrangheta in Italy. He didn't want to spend money on that. He was real big on like, I hate rich kids. So he gave them enough to live or whatever. And so the family doesn't really have any say in jack shit with his name. Like whatever skinflint of a Scrooge McDuck rich guy, one good thing about him was he hated the thing of having shitty rich kids inherit all their shit from you. So they're like, I don't know if they're like bitter at him or whatever, but he really made a whole. I don't want any of their stupid shit. I want to have this museum, and I don't want them having any say or any of their dumb ideas, or like they got to go make their own money. And like, it's just a funny like.
All right.
I think most people don't know that, or I didn't know it.
Yeah,
about him,
dude.
So, by the way,
no kid tunnels then.
No.
Okay.
Is there something in particular? I did want to make a comment. I don't want to digress, and I'm so sorry. I had to just
I forgot what I was talking about. Yeah.
We always forget over here. That's the thing.
We got 20 minutes left in the show, man. We might. It's not like we may as well keep riffing.
Yeah.
We may as well.
Well, I mean, if there's something you want to, I don't know if you want to go over the TikTok stuff with Kurt.
Tripoli last night was telling me about it. I saw a little bit about it. So that whole thing is to try to make VPNs. Is to try to like that's the first step to crack down on AM wake up probably.
Oh yeah.
At least from outside of the world viewership and yeah, it's that as long as we're continuing to be censored on a couple of platforms. If we try to evade that censorship by doing like our friend Ryan does with the pirate streams, that's a next step.
That is amazing to pull because I was like, every time I hear a thing about China, this and that, I'm like, again, why did you send all the manufacturing there? Like, if they're so bad, why did you send all the jobs there and have them do our gain of functions? Have them, if they're this enemy, like it's really poor planning for this big. They make it like, it's inevitable. We're going to have a war with China eventually. Everyone knows this. That's not they talk about it.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they can walk on their own, they can wipe their own ass, they can make their own decisions, and they ain't got to be bullied by the United States anymore, and we can't control them. Then we don't want that to happen. I mean, it's not a perfect society by any means, but also their economic system has really helped them out, and they're going around the world and building dams and hospitals and churches and schools and shit, and we're going around and bombing everybody. So
no, that I get that part of it. It's just like I don't understand if there were rumblings about TikTok like a while ago about how TikTok is spying and all this shit. And I was watching that guy Adam Curry. When I first heard about ESG, that was Adam Curry.
He's awesome.
Yeah, and he was the first
guy. A lot of what this show does is directly and openly ripped off from No Agenda. Yeah.
But he goes, he was like, I don't believe the TikTok thing. That's a bunch of tech companies colluding to push out a competitor that beat them. And I'm like, oh, right. Because it's still like all this shit. I watched a thing about how TikTok, they collect your information that goes. And China has a law that they can access the information of anything that's a Chinese company. They passed like a security law. Yeah. And it was like they're saying how like it was like dark this was how like and I'm like wait we don't do the same exact thing. Of course we do.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
so
the
I'm like
thing. It's different.
I have to hope
your data. If we have your data, this is something Edward Snowden talked about years ago.
Yeah, I have to hope there's competition that China you have to hope there's at least some competition of governments fighting for your data and not just one massive like Death Star government doing it.
Well, and Microsoft, I think in 2019, 2018 tried to buy TikTok and it didn't go through. They wouldn't let that happen. There've been a couple of other US based companies. This isn't the first time that they've tried to do this with TikTok. They were trying to do it under Trump too. I haven't heard.
I remember that. Yeah.
He tried to force the sale.
Yeah, I haven't heard Curry's take on it yet. I've seen a couple of people talk about it, refer to it as it was excellent. It usually is. But I mean, this is it seems to be at least round 2, if not round 3, of them trying to put a squeeze on TikTok in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, absolutely correct. Tech companies that have social media shit going on here hate TikTok because it's complete. It's all of the shit. It's all of the user interface shit that people would want from like Instagram or Twitter, or even back in the day, MySpace, where you learned how to code and shit. Like, they're actually teaching people how to do some of this shit. It's got user functionality that US based social media companies don't. There's access to what people want by search, and then it just populates it with that, instead of you watch a clip of Can't Get Right or something like that, or you watch some reason us on YouTube, and then it shows you CNN, or it shows you Fox, or it shows,
Yeah, right.
Like, TikTok, it's not doing that.
Well, they got WhatsApp. I mean, when I was there, they had WhatsApp, or the the thing that it was like Facebook and everything rolled into one, and Twitter,
WeChat, right?
WeChat, not WhatsApp, WeChat, and they were explaining it to me, the guys that would take me around, like that they have their own thing that's like way better, and it is a thing of like the government collects all. But when I remember when I was first hearing about it, I'm like, oh, that sounds exactly like our thing.
Well,
but like
what
they have a
Elon
more
Musk
usable
wants
product.
to do, what Musk wants to do with Twitter is turn it into WeChat, where it's not just all your social medias roll into one, but so is all of your banking and your ability to access and use money and your travel permits within your 15-minute cities. How's comedy gonna work in a 15-minute city?
Aren't all cities? I've never lived in a city that wasn't a 15-minute city, by the way.
Did you live in a city where you were given travel credits by the government, where you were only allowed to leave that 15-minute city by state mandate X amount of times a year, and if you exceeded it, you were fined, and you had significant consequences?
Oh, okay. So do you remember smart cities?
Yeah.
Before 15-minute cities, the thing was smart cities.
Right.
Wait,
and
what do you say, Craig?
Nothing.
Cupertino, California is a smart city.
So the smart city thing, basically now that smart city shit is only being done. They had the idea for this, though, WAF a long time ago, of a smart city, and it was all going to be like, and it sounded a lot like 15-minute city, but they have problems implementing it because part of this the company, it's not working out in like developed nations, because part of it is like, well, if we can't sell the data, then why would we do that? Like, it's actually getting tripped up by the capitalist thing that it was trying to fuse with. So now the
cities are different, though.
Yeah, I think that's probably the newer. I think that's like a new like version of trying to do that smart city shit.
It's a travel restriction thing. It's an obedience mechanism. It's a way to get, because your ability to travel is directly impeded just by your city adopting these measures. There's been a handful in the UK that are doing it. They're all doing it under the guise of like traffic.
They also have those those kind of Greta Thunberg stupid activists blocking roads in like small town. This is how you know it's not any kind of real, because I'll watch like Lotus Eaters and they're like, yeah, look at these leftists, and it's like you can tell like they're doing this shit. They're blocking the way for just regular people. That's how you know they're not doing that to at some powerful place. Yeah. That's how you know they're being funded by some rich guy to go do that to regular people.
Yeah. Well, there's I think over 50 cities in Canada that have grants and pilot programs for 15-minute cities going up. They're sectioning off Ottawa currently. Little construction billboard. You know how they do on the fences where they've got like, this is a blah 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 project, and got a little fucking picture of the home. It's neighborhoods are being like constructioned up like that for like a future 15-minute city and that kind of thing. There's in a couple of spots that at least I've seen video of, and I can't corroborate that, but in China, where there's these things that just pop up out of the road, little cones, and that's then your credentials are checked and your travel permit or your travel allotment is checked, and if you have exceeded your limit or if your social credit it has been negatively impacted, then you are denied the ability to leave your zone that day.
Did you see that poor guy that he's a MMA fighter in China that like went around beating up their fake, because Kung Fu, I guess, is complete horseshit, Wing Chun and all that. And he would go, I love watching like fake martial arts once MMA came out, it showed like what actually is a real thing and what's like a dance.
Yeah.
And so this guy in China like beat a bunch of these men and it embarrassed their national fucking scam of kung fu.
But these are all like different types of like kung fu that has the energy flow and all that bullshit. It's not like the traditional Bruce Lee, which he referred to as Chinese boxing kung fu, right?
Well, but
Just
Bruce Lee,
totally
studied all like Bruce Lee studied all that shit. But one thing about Bruce Lee is like he was very big on like there's not a style that's a thing. Like you see interviews, like if I was like trapped, I would bite if I had to. I would do like Bruce Lee was all open to like not getting hung up on like this nonsense.
Yes. And getting rid of the shit that doesn't work. And he's like, he described it as a sculptress. You don't add shit. Sometimes you take away to complete your style, the stuff that's not going to be effective.
So, right. And also
a ton of cocaine.
Yeah, I was going to say also he was a champion because he did a lot of cocaine. Those letters are really funny because I've seen so much stuff of Bruce Lee, like, oh, maybe he had too much water in his head or he took some aspirin. And how did he die? When I was a kid, they implied it was an ancient Chinese curse on his family.
Yeah.
And
that's
like,
good for the movie.
Yeah. Oh, he's a cokehead.
Yeah.
And the reason we know is the letters from Bob, what's his name? That the guy in
who used to get him cocaine on set of his movies and shit.
He used to that guy's daughter found the letters from Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Which I was texting Rogan because he would talk about Bruce Lee. I'm like, did you ever know about this? And he didn't. I'm like, that's what. Like, can you imagine? You got to write a letter to your coke dealer, through the post, and then just wait by the mailbox.
You told this story on the show before. It was awesome.
I can't believe, like, I cannot believe that.
Product.
Speaking of TikTok, real quick, the funny thing about it is, and I have a little clip that Caitlin Johnstone put up from Dan Crenshaw.
I maintain, and I don't know if I said this last
piece
time.
Of shit, yeah.
I maintain, and I'm not sure if I said this last time, but Bruce Lee lived in fucking Oakland. He lived in Oakland, and he lived in like Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
You can't find cocaine. You have to write a letter to a dealer. Like, I understand trust, dude.
I think these are the dealers on the set when he went back to China, I believe, right? When he kind of got rejected by Hollywood and he went back to China, signed a deal, did those movies over there. I think it was that. It wasn't in Oakland. So
postal mail order cocaine?
No. So
I mean, that's risky business right there.
So the funny thing about this whole TikTok situation is that they keep on saying China, China, China. The CEO is not from China.
Where's he from?
I'm going to show you. Take a look at this really quick. You're going to love this. Here's your boy, Dan Crenshaw.
Hey, Solid Snake.
Eye patch.
In other words, ByteDance and also your TikTok employees that live in China, they must cooperate with Chinese intelligence whenever they are called upon. And if they are called upon, they're bound to secrecy. That would include you. So, Mr. Chu, if the CCP tells ByteDance to turn over all data that TikTok has collected inside the U.S., even within Project Texas, do they have to do so according to Chinese law?
Congressman, first, I'm Singaporean.
That's fine. In other words, ByteDance and also your TikTok employees.
You can go and get the whole 5 minutes, and it's pretty interesting, and I encourage people to do so. But yeah,
give it up for Eye Patch McCain, though, for just seamlessly running with it. Okay, but your employees, I asked you a question, man. I don't really honestly give a shit what kind of color. I don't care. I'm trying to.
I mean, it's amazing how similar that is to the Matt Taibbi, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, like stupid.
Yeah.
Every time, and Barry Crimmins in that documentary, you know, Barry Crimmins had the when AOL had a 3 strikes and you're out for child porn policy when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
And Barry Crimmins testified before Congress and there's a guy from AOL who was like their fucking slick like rep, and he said, how do you write? He said like each senator, I think they were all senators, they each took a kind of manly pride in being tech illiterate. Like they each took like a pride in like, I don't know what this internet is. They're still like that. They don't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
And then they ask these questions that are like, it sounds like my mother half read a news article and and texted it to me. Like that's how how much they know nothing.
Yeah. Even the fact that the CEO keeps telling them, like, dude, the data which you guys are referring to is stored here. It's stored here. It's not stored in China. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he keeps.
So if the Communist Party wants to access that data, they can, though. That's what I'm saying. Even though we're storing it and RNSA sees it before the CCP does.
Yes.
And all of our intel agencies and Mossad and MI5, even though there's that whole data collection web before anybody in China gets to it.
Yeah.
I'm really concerned.
Hey,
about
bad
China.
news. Bad news, America. China knows how queer our kids are now.
Yeah.
Like what?
and that's the other angle too, why you point that out too as well. You know, Tucker goes on this whole thing and it's going, let's show the difference between what children in China are watching when TikTok goes there versus Americans, right? And it shows the way the algorithm spits out. And this is what he doesn't mention. He blames it on the Chinese as if the Chinese are trying to do what Cambridge Analytica did, which is understand what you like, what gets clicks, and use that to program you in a certain way and move you in a certain way. In other words, if they have data that they know that, you know, Kurt's working on a story, maybe he's going to talk about on Jimmy Dore that's important, but he likes looking at huskies running around in the snow, those will pop up more to distract him and get him over there. But the thing they don't talk about, it's that's what our fucking society is about. That's what we are producing ourselves. It's not the Chinese that are doing it. It's our society that is distracted and addicted to this nonsense. It's what we produce.
What is your distraction video, Kurt? What do you get pulled away from whatever the fuck?
Huskies and otters used to be mine.
Oh, I mean, all kinds of stuff. I don't even know where to start. Somebody told me I have a very weird algorithm. But it was a friend Alex, but I think he was just being kind of a nerd when he said that. He was like, you look at weird. I don't know. I like a lot of different. I think whatever algorithm I have is I really must throw it off because I look at a lot of different shit randomly.
But this is something that, you know, the American empire or the Western freaking keys to the kingdom have used for capitalism, for consumerism. You can just be talking about a shower head with your friend, and next thing you know,
more than that, I if it was just that would be like less bad. It's like we don't like. That's the thing is wild is like old fashioned consumerism is like some populist idea. Like now it's going to be all that like you just need a nudge. We just got to nudge you into doing what we say, and then if something they don't like, it's too popular, then consumerism's done. Then it's like no, we need to step it. That's the thing. It's amazing is China steps in and is like, we don't want the kids looking at this. And meanwhile, here you were just reading that fucking Hobbit thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. So China's saying you can't play addictive cell phone games after 11 if you're a kid. You know the ones where kids get their parents' credit card and rack up like tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I do, right? Kurt Metzger. I do. I know exactly what that. Yeah.
So China cracked down on that shit, which we don't do here, especially like the gambling they put in video games. The mystery boxes were like a notorious thing where, you know, you get FIFA or something. The guy from EA, this piece of shit that's the CEO of EA, Andrew Wilson, and he invented the Wilson loot box. And it was a way to keep getting money out of people where like, I want to buy a little hat for my fictitious game character. You can't just buy it. You buy a loot box and then it's like a slot machine and maybe you'll get the hat. That was his big innovation. Nobody was on top of regulating it in any way until like maybe Australia kind of did. Well, only a couple countries, but here, no, we don't have it. So China does that with the kid, like, oh, this is fucking our kids up. So they passed a law, and I remember the propaganda here from people like they're trying to tell the kids they can't have their games after 10. I mean, I think they're probably better with people's personal data there, other than the government obviously going through their shit. But the private companies, they have better privacy laws there for your data than we do here.
Yeah.
And they also have the government's looking through your shit here too. So there's literally
we have
no
a way more tainted history. This is what fucking Edward Snowden's hanging out in Russia because of, and that was how many years ago? And he even showed
No.
it. Dude, they're looking at their own citizens in the United States, these tech companies, via the way of the government for about 10 times harder than they're looking at Russia and China, which they claim they have these laws in place for, you know,
Yeah, right.
the Patriot Act. So we can go after terrorists. We can go after the enemy looking at us. We can find out what's going on, but they're not. They're looking at us. And that's what this
Well,
next Restrict Act is all about. I know we got to get out of here. It's 1 o'clock, but
in tandem with Elon Musk telling everyone, oh, your legacy blue check's done. You've got to re-sign up. We are going to need telling everyone, if you don't show me your biometric data effectively, eventually at least, if you don't re-sign up, if we don't know who you are connected to at least a phone, if not a phone and a bank account, then, and you don't pay me, then you don't count on Twitter. You're in a bot hellscape. That's where you're going to be, is in
Is Twitter anything but that?
Well, but here's the point though. You're then going to be connected at 2 points of who you are, at least through your phone, computer, and all that, and your wallet to Twitter. And then right at the same time, there's this Restrict Act that's saying you can't go outside of the realm of, XYZ in order to access this. Is all about pushing you further and further and further into a tiny little narrow lane of absolute technological control. Kurt fucking Metzger. That's what it is. A little bit by bit by bit.
Well, I for one welcome our overlords.
Our AI overlords, yes.
Yeah.
Surely the AI, which is totally real, by the way, will be a better government than this one.
The AI is more alive than most of the people on Twitter that have been pushing social justice horseshit for the last 10 years. Most of them would not,
low fucking bar, man.
They would not even pass a Turing test. Most of the fucking blue hairs that have been around for 10
low
years.
Bar. I swear. Let's
get on out of here. Let's say some salutations and greetings. I know
Kurt, you got dates?
Long.
Yeah, but I don't remember them. But KurtMetzgerComedy.com and in my Instagram.
Where's your microphone?
It's here.
Hit up Johnny. He said he'll do a Zoom call with you or whatever, and he'll hook it up and get you going, brother.
All right,
it's
awesome.
A good microphone. Look,
I know.
It's a good microphone.
All right, thanks, guys. I gotta go. Jimmy say. All right, thanks. I'll talk to you later.
What are you guys talking about today?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't gotten the keys yet.
Gotcha, brother. Have a great show. We'll see you later, buddy.
All right, bye.
Kurt Metzger, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, if you're going out to see live comedy, like our friend in Cleveland did, and you go up and you're seeing Kurt Metzger, mention the show. It's very nice. Do like to hear that. Comics like to know where people are coming from.